My F1 2025 predictions. Part 1, Red Bull. For Max Verstappen, I predict he'll have a solid year yet again. So I'm going to say he's going to finish third in 2025 in the drivers' standings. I don't believe Red Bull will have the car to consistently challenge if they stay at this rate of development over the course of the season. So third over third for Verstappen. Now moving on to his teammate, Liam Lawson. Slightly controversial as people wanted Tsunoda in that seat instead, but focusing on just Lawson, I think for him to have a solid or good year, top 8. So I predict Lawson will finish P7, as I don't think the Red Bull will suit Lawson as much as it suited previous drivers of that second Red Bull seat. So 7th for him, solid year. And then overall, as a team for Red Bull, I think they're going to finish third in the constructors. I don't believe Mercedes will make the step up needed yet again, but I don't believe that Red Bull will be above the Ferrari or McLaren if they continue the rate of development from the year gone by. That is my prediction for Red Bull in 2025. My F1 2025 season predictions, Part 2, McLaren Formula One team. Coming off of a successful year, McLaren will be looking to continue upon this, and we'll start by looking at one of their drivers, Oscar Piastri. Off of a strong year, where he wasn't as consistent as people would have liked, I think he'll finish P4 in the World Driver standings. Nothing against Oscar, I like him as a driver. However, I think the top 5 or 6 will be quite competitive. So I don't think it'll be clear cut who finishes where, and with the drivers experienced around him, I think his lack of experience might haunt him here. That's nothing against Oscar, just his lack of experience in F1, which will come with time. So P4 for him. Now moving on to the other side of the F1 garage is Lando Norris. Coming from a strong 2024, where he learnt a lot of valuable lessons, even if it did ultimately possibly cost him the title, I reckon Lando Norris this season will be in contention for the driver's title. So for this reason, I am saying he will be P1 in the driver's title at the end of the year. He will win it. If McLaren can have a strong year and keep this consistent car delivery up. And hopefully I'm not eating these words by the mid-season or end of the year. So if they're P1 and P4, I'm also going to say McLaren retain the Constructors' title for 2 years. So they go back to back, 24 and 25. McLaren will be looking to build off of this. So this is my prediction for McLaren in 2025. My F1 2025 season predictions. Part 3, Ferrari. Coming off of a strong year for Ferrari, where they had a great shot at the title, quite unexpectedly, all things considered, from last year. They now have a new driver in Lewis Hamilton and an experienced driver in Charles Leclerc. Now, moving on to my predictions for these drivers, I think Charles Leclerc will finish P2 in the drivers' standings in 2025. He'll have another very strong year, and I think it'll be close in the top 6 or 7 again. And I think the top 3 or 4 will be very congested and close. And I think Charles will step up again, even if this Ferrari redesign isn't as good as its predecessor. Which now leads me on to his teammate for next year, Lewis Hamilton. Now, you can look at his recent form with Mercedes and say it's his fault or Mercedes' fault. I think it's a mix of the car being undrivable and Hamilton not suiting the car. He's going to Ferrari, so I'm going to say he's going to finish P6 in 2025. Again, keeping in mind that 2025, I predict the top 6, 7, or 8 will be very close on points throughout the season. I am saying 6th conservatively, as I think it will take time for Lewis to adapt to the Ferrari. It's a brand new car after years and years of the Mercedes. He's historically not gelled well with this new era of car, so I think it's an hour learning exercise this season for Lewis, and he'll be focused on 2026 primarily. Now, moving on to the team as a whole, where do they finish in the constructors' standings? Well, I'm saying Ferrari finished runners-up yet again, P2. This will be close in the top 3, but I think it will be between them and McLaren for the top 2 spots, where I think they will not have the edge McLaren will have over the course of the season. ultimately. My Formula One 2025 season predictions, Part 4, Mercedes Formula One team. Coming off of another mediocre year for Mercedes, where improvements were made in comparison to the rest of the teams on the grid and finishing where they have. They have lost one of their drivers in Lewis Hamilton. He's gone to Ferrari, but they replaced him with an unknown quantity of Kimi Antonelli, who in the past has shown he can win things. He skipped F3 straight to F2, had a not the best of years in F2. However, that Prema team was very inconsistent track to track, as also seen by his teammate in that Oliver Bearman. However, I think coming into Formula One this season, Antonelli will finish P8 this season in his rookie year while he gets to grip with the Mercedes' different dynamic and philosophy compared to every other car on the grid, and the fact he is a rookie and it'll be his first year in F1, much like Bearman, arguably Lawson, and Hadjar, as well as Doohan. So he is in a finished P8. Now moving on to his teammate, George Russell, coming off of a very strong year for Russell. I'm going to predict he finishes P5 in the standings, above his teammate and ahead of Hamilton, who I predicted sixth for Ferrari. I think Russell might nab a few more race wins if he shows more of what he did in Vegas, where he just walks the competition. Now, that in mind, the team itself in the constructors, I think, are going to finish fourth again. They're going to continue this streak, and I think this team is just going to develop Antonelli and Russell in the team and try and keep them for next season, where engine formula Mercedes should be supreme. But we'll see in a year's time, shall we? My F1 2025 season predictions, Part 5, Aston Martin Formula One team. Now, they've come off of a year where they've gone backwards with lower lows than they had the season before. Their development stalled again. But Newey's coming in, Adrian Newey, great car designer. He'll help them in 2026, like more than likely. They will shoot up the grid then. However, this season, it's already said he's been delayed by Red Bull, and the fact their current trajectory is quite low, I don't think Aston will do very well this year and will continue the trend of getting lower and lower. So for that reason, I'm predicting Fernando Alonso to finish 11th in the driver's standings. And, well, I reckon he's going to be carrying this team primarily points-wise. He will be there in and around the points. Not best to the rest consistently, but they're close enough. Now moving on to his teammate, Lance Stroll. I'm predicting him to finish P15, which is generous. I was thinking about putting him lower. However, I do reckon a one or two races maybe this year where it's greasy and not slippery, that Stroll will put in a few good performances to remind us why he's in a car and the fact he has a pace seat. However, I do reckon we will see a few more glimpses that we have seen throughout the years. Granted, not as many, but that's why he is 15th. Now, moving on to the team as a whole, I am predicting they're going to finish P7 in the constructors' standings this season. I don't think Stroll will score nearly enough for them to be high enough for like a sixth or a fifth, when comparatively Alonso will this season outscored him by around 50 points. I don't think Stroll has it in him, so for this reason, Aston are 7th. And that is the end of my Part 5 predictions for Aston Martin Formula 1 team. My F1 2025 season predictions, Part 6, Alpine Formula 1 team. Coming off of a somewhat solid second half of the year with incredible development, finishing P6 in the standings, Alpine are going to be looking to make steps forward this season where Briatore can have his full influence over the team with the drivers and the program as a whole. I do have an opinion on that, but that's for later on. I do reckon, though, that this season, Pierre Gasly is going to finish P9 in the driver's standings. He's going to put in one of his solid years, out-deliver the car, and be the Gasly everybody has known throughout his career, with those very high highs he has been delivering in his time in the sport. So, ninth for Gasly. Moving across the garage to his teammate, Jack Doohan. might not be as strong of the year if we go off what we saw at Abu Dhabi, and if we just go off of he hasn't raced in over a year, bar that one race in Abu Dhabi. Last year he didn't do any like Super Formula, Formula 2, Formula 3, nothing like that. So he's been a year out, and he is on a 5-race contract, if the rumours are to be believed, where getting his racecraft back in 5 races might be quite difficult, and for that reason, I'm saying Jack Doohan will finish P20 in the driver's standings in 2025, where I also think if he doesn't immediately deliver, he will be replaced by Franco Colapinto partway through the season. However, because Colapinto isn't here at the start of the season, I'm not going to predict Colapinto, as it isn't set on, and I hope for Jack Doohan's sake he keeps the seat and does a full season. Even though Colapinto, a lot of people want him in, it is quite unfair and harsh on Doohan. But moving on to a team as a whole, with Gasly in 9th and Doohan in 20th, I think the team are going to finish a low 8th in the standings. Much like the reasons I put Aston Martin in 7th, there's kind of going to be one driver scoring the points, one driver quite inconsistent there or thereabouts. That is my prediction for Alpine F1 team in 2025. My F1 2025 season predictions. Part 7, Haas F1 team. Coming off of quite a strong year for the team, finishing 7th in the constructors' standings after initially being written off by most pundits and people alike, with the departure of their team principal and then the new team principal taking over, Aya Komatsu. I'm sorry, I've just butchered his name. Having doubts over the team's performance over the season, for them to have a very good season of everything considered, getting quite unlucky with Alpine having the opportunity in with Brazil getting the double podium. If it weren't for that, it would have been 6th, which would have been quite a good finish for the team, especially with their rate of development actually not having tyre issues. With all in all, going into 2025, I think Esteban Ocon, the new driver to the team, having left Alpine early last season, I reckon he's going to finish P12 in the driver's standings this season. I think his form will be there or thereabouts. You'll find it again, not like it in the Alpine, as his mental was gone. I don't think he was there mentally, and I don't think he wanted to be there. I'm hoping he'll reset over the winter and go again for Haas, be that good driver we saw at Alpine against Alonso, hopefully without taking our teammate part, all in all. And then, speaking of his teammate Oliver Bearman, the rookie coming in for this season, had stand-ins for Haas last season and Ferrari, where he stood in at Saudi Arabia for Carlos Sainz before making a myriad of appearances for Haas throughout the season, where he put in quite solid performances, only really stumbling at Brazil, where even the most experienced drivers like Hamilton were getting caught out. But all of that said, I think that Oliver Bearman will finish P10 in the standings this season, beating Ocon by 2 places in the standings. Now, with all of this considered, I do reckon Haas in the constructors' standings will finish P5 and have one of their best years in the sport ever, with possibly a potential for a podium if things go their way. And this is my prediction for Haas in 2025. My F1 2025 season predictions. Part 7, VCARB or RB Racing Bulls, whatever you want to call them. They've come off of a year where there was a steady decline in the team. Ricciardo got replaced by Lawson. Lawson's gone on to Red Bull after putting in some decent performances. The team as a whole has lost its identity in recent times, going from Toro Rosso to AlphaTauri, both good brands, and now on to VCARB or RB, which is now quite a soulless team. Again, this team originated from Bernardi, yada yada yada. But going into 2025, I don't expect them to move forward. I don't expect them to be midfield, really. I don't even think they're going to be on pace. And that's unfortunate for their 2 drivers, as I think they're both quite good. One of them being Yuki Tsunoda, who I think got quite unlucky to not get that Red Bull seat instead of Lawson. He's proven himself time and time again that he's a good driver, quick. Maybe his first season has tarnished him. Maybe his deal with Honda's doing him over. Maybe he'll get that Aston Martin seat instead of Stroll, which is good for all of us. But in 2025, I think Yuki Tsunoda will finish P16 in the driver's standings, comfortably outscoring his teammate Isaac Hadjar. Slight spoiler there, he is ahead of him. As Hadjar, we can move on to him, is a rookie. He's quite new to the sport, first season, quite strong in F2. Unfortunately, missed out on the title to Bortoleto by quite a few points. Where I was in a very competitive F2 season with about 22 different podium sitters and 14 different race winners. Something like that. It was quite close to that number, if I recall correctly. And for that reason, I think Isaac Hadjar will finish P17 in their driver's standings. So for the team, they'll be 16th and 17th. And as a whole, I think VCarb or Racing Bulls will finish P9 in the standings. 1 place lower, than they did this season. Gone. And this is my 2025 season predictions on VCarb. My F1 2025 season predictions. Part 9, Williams Formula 1 team or Williams Racing. Coming off of a year where Franco Colapinto stepped in for Sargent and put in some stellar performances, and Albon equally put in some good performances, I reckon that they'll be looking to improve with the likes of Carlos Sainz joining the team, giving them what on paper is one of the stronger lineups on the grid. Carlos Sainz has proven himself in top cars and mid cars, and I think his way of developing cars will help Williams quite a lot during the season. And Albon, on the other hand, has been with Williams for a few years now. I think 2 or 3 seasons. I think 3 seasons, 22, 23, 24, 25. It'll be his 4th season this season. So he'll know all the team members and he'll probably continue to be the first driver with good development for the car. And now with a stable lineup, I think points are more on the cards than ever for the team. So I'm going to say that Carlos Sainz this season will finish P13 in the driver's standings. He'll be in the hunt for points, much like the likes of Alonso for Aston Martin or Ocon and Behrman for Haas. They will be somewhat competitive and always vying to try and get in the points. Now on to his teammate, Alexander Albon, or Alex Albon. I'm predicting he's going to finish 14th in the World Driver standings. This season will be the first proper test we'll see of Albon versus a quick teammate, because he's had the likes of Sargent, Latifi. Granted, there was Colapinto, he's a rookie, but they were close. Now we see Sainz, a driver we saw go toe-to-toe with Leclerc, novice. He has proved himself time and time again, and I don't think that it will be close. It won't be like a landslide to Sainz over Albon. It will be very close. But onto the team as a whole. Now, I've said it's going to be close, and I've said they're 13th and 14th. So as a whole, I think Williams will finish 6th in the World Constructors standings in 2025, which will be quite a strong year and their highest is since I think 2017 or 18. This has been part 9 of my F1 2025 season predictions. My F1 2025 season predictions. Part 10, Stake Kick Sauber or Stake F1 team. I think it's going by Stake or Kick next season, as Audi fully own the team, so Sauber no longer has interest in it. I'm not 100% certain on what their name is. I'll look at the list just before pre-season. So they've just come off of quite a dreadful year. We're only getting points in the second half of the year, where Zhou put in some incredible race performances and Bottas put in some incredible qualifying performances. Sadly, both those drivers are gone, and they've got a trusty driver in Nico Hulkenberg and a rookie who's done very well in the rookie formulas, Gabriel Bortoleto. So, if they can provide a car, they might do well, but considering their trend in the past few seasons, 2020 got slower, 21 slower, 22 slightly quicker, 23 backwards, 24 backwards right until the end where those upgrades made their midfield car. I don't think they're going to learn from this mistake, so for that reason, Nico Hulkenberg will finish P18 in the driver's standings. He might get the odd point, like he might get 1 through 6 points in the season. But if he doesn't, he'll finish there because he's finished 11th 4 or 5 times. And Hulkenberg will be more likely to do that as he's historically done this before with lower cars. It's his specialty. Moving on to his teammate, the rookie, Gabriel Bortoleto, his first season, 1 F2, 1 F3, both as a rookie. Coming into F1 as a rookie, I'm going to ruin it all for you. He won't win the championship with Stake. He won't be back-to-back rookie champion, as much as everyone would like to see that. No. I'm predicting he's going to finish 19th, close to Hulkenberg in the races, I think. But I think Hulkenberg will just have that experienced edge over him. And there's no pressure on Bortoleto this season, really. He needs time to develop, and Stake aren't going to be that competitive, so he'll get the time to. Now, because their drivers are 18th and 19th, where am I going to place him in the World Constructor standings? I'm going to say Kick Sauber yet again finish P10 in the World Constructor standings for Formula 1 in 2025. This is because I don't think they're going to make a good car at the start of the year, and I don't think they're going to know how to develop the car. So this is why they're going to be the slowest car yet again. And this has been my last part of my Formula 1 2025 season predictions. Thank you for watching.